quick exercise that I'm just going to pass your way, and maybe this can be useful for some things. First off, Figma is a lot like Sketch, it's a lot like Illustrator. Keyboard shortcuts are actually quite different in some of them, but some of them they're the exact same. The tools you're going to be using are things like your shape tools, placing images, vector images, your pen tool, your text tool, and then creating a frame, in other words, an artboard if you're from the Illustrator world like I was. So the first thing you could do is say, you know what, I'm going to create a frame and I'm going to choose a specified size, like the iPhone sizes or maybe Android sizes. Maybe you're going to do a tablet. So you choose a Surface or an iPad, or maybe you're going to do a desktop size. So I'm going to start with, let's just say I've got an iPhone 13 Pro Max, so I'm going to choose that. It's really small because I'm zoomed way out. So let's zoom in. You can treat Figma just like Illustrator. If you want a button somewhere and then you want to define its size, you could say its width is 150 or 160 if you're using rule of eights, and its height might be 40, and you want let's say an 8-pixel rounded button. So I'm going to zoom in here so you can see that. I can change the color either to something that I know. So in this case I'm going to choose just bright red because I know that off the top of my head, or you can come in here and say, you know what, I want to pick a color that is more conducive to the brand that I'm using, or maybe you have those values. You can of course also use opacities. You can add a stroke, an outline to your item, and you can add effects like drop shadows, and you can also set this item to export. Now I'm zoomed way in on this iPhone. So here this iPhone button is centered in the phone horizontally. Now I can throw some text on top of it by just saying, you know, button title. And a lot of folks, if they're not accustomed to some of the more robust methods of using Figma, would build their buttons exactly like this. They'd take them, they'd give them a title, they'd give their text a color, we'll just say white. Let's make it a heavier typeface, and then they would take these and they would center them to each other, and there you go, there's your button. And you can do that. That is a way to build your items, is just simply stacking the items kind of on top of each other. However, when you become a bit more of a power user, and this is the place I would encourage you to embrace, is you'll actually sometimes start by not even building your screen at all. You'll come in with, you know, some buttons that are already prescribed. So you'll just say, you know what, I'm going to put some text down here. I want it to be 16. I want it to have a 24 line height or leading, and I want it to be black. And you'll say button title. Okay. So here's the power user way of doing this. To make that button, once you've got your text nailed down, you then take this text and you are going to create what is called an auto layout. It's just a way to make things over time faster. It's slower on the start, but it's faster on the back end. So to make that auto layout, I'm going to use the keyboard command Shift A. That makes it an auto layout. Auto layout added is there at the bottom. Now I can come in and say, you know what, I want the contents. How do I want it aligned? Do I want it aligned left, right? You're not going to notice that because it's got a 10 pixel padding all the way around. But you start to notice that when you've got, let's say, something that's got an offset, like you want it to be left aligned, and then you want this to come way out here. So now I've got this button or whatever this element is, and now I'm going to align the text left. Okay, I'm doing a button, so I'm going to use that align center, and now I'm going to come in and I'm going to just allow it to have kind of whatever width or height. I'm going to hug the height, and I notice it's 44. I'm going to adjust that just a touch, and I'm going to make it 8 so that it's 40 pixels high. Now you can't see it because every time I mouse off of it, all you see is just the text. But you still see the frame title. Well, here I'm going to rename this frame to new button. Okay, and yes, you can use your slashes to make your types of buttons. So you might say primary button, which I already have a primary button, so I'm going to call this a secondary. So I've got a secondary button, and what we'll do is we'll just say this is you know, our normal state or our active state. All right, so active, I'm going to add a background color. So here's the thing, is you've actually created a box around your text by making it an auto layout, which means that that box can have a fill. It can have just the fill of white, or it could have, let's say, a fill of a specific color that you either choose or you're prescribed by your design system. And of course that can have all the exact same things, such as a stroke. So let's say I wanted my stroke to be based off of my primary color there, and then I come in and drop that down, and I want to make that stroke, let's say, 2 pixels. And of course you can affect the corner radius as well. We're going to throw that 8 pixel corner radius on it. Now I've got a button title, and because it is an auto layout, that means whenever I place it inside of something, I can now put it and make it react to what I put inside of it. So I'm going to create that frame again. Let's get my frame and go to 13 Pro Max. Now I can take this, put it inside my frame, and now I can say I want it to hug the contents. I want it to be fixed width. And so having that hug contents allows it to say, hey, whatever the button title is, if it's just the simple title of submit, then it's as big as submit. Or if it's primary action title, then it expands to that. All right, here's the next thing. You want to make these reusable. So I'm going to take this outside of my iPhone, and I'm going to do a couple more things. I want to make it reusable. So I really want to make this into a component. Okay, so you see I've got auto layout. I can remove that auto layout here by right clicking. I see create a component is Command Option K. So I'm going to do that. Keyboard shortcuts. I like keyboard shortcuts. Now it's reusable. Now if I come in and I make a copy and I put it here, and then I make another copy and I put it here, and then I center those up, and I can affect the space between, just like in Sketch. Let's say I want to do that as 24 pixels between them. And again, I can sit here and affect its alignment inside the screen. And now I can say, you know what, I want to take this button right here, and I want to change the title of it to, let's say, something like cancel. Okay, it is left aligned. So my distance between items is different. I can still change that. I can grab those two and I can just set it to 24 and move those things around. Okay, so one of the things I would encourage you to try is building auto layouts. I'm going to go on ahead and tell you that auto layouts are a normal sticking point for people. So if you embrace them early and begin thinking from that perspective, you will overcome the biggest hurdle in Figma. So to review, I'm going to put text in place. I'm going to then create that as an auto layout by selecting it. I could right click it and add auto layout. Notice it's Shift A. So Shift A. I'm going to affect my my padding so that I get a nice 40 pixel tall button, because for some reason I'm stuck on that. I'm going to give it an 8 pixel border. I'm going to give it an outline and a border, and so I want it to be a black border. I want it to be 2 pixels, and I want it to be, let's say, 24 pixels, and then I want the text itself to be, or not 24 pixels, 24%, so that now I've got an inactive button. Okay, and I can rename that by just double clicking on it or hit Command R. Rename it to secondary button / inactive, and I could say primary action title, so that they always appear in at the same length, at the same size. Okay, and I can make these switch out. So if I said, you know what, I'm going to now take this, I'm going to create it as a component, just like this one is. Create a component. Now I can come over here to my cancel button, and I can swap it out for my other version of it. Okay, right here, if you'll notice that I'm looking at my symbols given to you by this diamond shape, which associates with this diamond shape. I can say I want to go from active to inactive. Now my cancel button is inactive. Okay, so try out those auto layouts. Try building a few buttons. It's a simple exercise, I know, but it's a good basis. And I'll try to send you another quick video in a little while that just says, hey, you know what? I'm going to put together another quick video that shows you kind of how I take these auto layouts and nest them inside of each other to build fuller screens. And I hope this helps.